Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another session of Derek's Travel Chats for April the 15th, 2021. And here in Newfoundland, we've had a week full of rain and fog, but luckily today the sun is shining, but then the temperature has dropped. So I hope everyone who's viewing, whether it's here in Newfoundland or across Canada, that the weather is starting to warm up for you. As well, we've seen vaccines begin to roll out in many places, and hopefully we will get to that herd immunity point so that parts of the country can open up to each other and we can begin to travel even more. So I know it's great to travel within your own province, but I know people are really wanting to travel farther away than just around their own neighborhood. So today is episode 35. So over the last few months, we've had some great conversations, and I hope people have learned a whole lot throughout the show. If you're viewing for the first time, welcome. Also, you can view previous shows on my website, which is there on the screen, www.enbtravelservice.ca. And you can view all the other 34 episodes going right back to June of last year. Again, the travel world is trying to figure out how we move forward. And hopefully sometime soon we'll see some big changes. I know with Air Canada making a deal with the federal government is good news this week. And hopefully that will encourage people to start booking and giving me a call. Get your booking down, because one thing about travel right now is many of the companies are really putting their hand out there to say, look, we understand, and we will make it as easy as possible for you to book. And if things don't change, we make it as easy as possible for you to change your plans. So with that in mind, I want to bring on our guest for today, because today is all about luxury and having all those little special things, and not really paying a bigger price for it, just paying for it in a different way. So now I'd like to see if I can figure out my computer here in two different screens, and here we go. And very pleased to welcome Miss Beverley Vickers of Regent Seven Seas Cruise. So welcome, Beverley. Beverley is
thank you, Derek.
Been in the industry for about 35 years now, and she must have started when she was very, 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 very young.
You smooth talker.
I've known Beverley now for a number of years, and then had the pleasure of being on a couple of the ships through ship inspections when they stop by in St. John's Port here. So I know you're going to see a wonderful product in Regent Seven Seas. So again, Beverley, thank you for being on Derek's Travel Chats, and looking forward to you telling all the viewers what Regent has to offer, and as we move forward.
Well, thank you for having me. In fact, it's funny because right now my husband and I have been watching those wonderful commercials they have on TV for Newfoundland, and we can't wait to come see you. So, as much as I'd like to go on a ship again, I think we may end up in Newfoundland this year as our vacation. So, can't wait.
Well, we will welcome you with open arms. So, Beverley, I know just we hear so much about COVID these days, and well, for the last 13 months, and
Yeah.
every day seems to be changing in different parts of the country, different parts of the world. But how has Regent Seven Seas been dealing with COVID, and how did your company prepare for reopening?
Well, I mean, that's loaded questions on all fronts. I mean, obviously, cruising kind of became the poster child for this horrendous experience that we've been through, and kind of unfortunately. And although poor Princess Cruises was front and center in all the media, it obviously affected all cruise lines. So we all take it very, very much to heart. Especially knowing that it really, at the end of the day, was nothing to do with the cruise line. It was the fact that it was all very new. The discovery of this terrible virus just happened to come to the forefront while people were on ships, and happened to be in Asia. So, yeah, so it's hit us all very much in the heart, as well as the pocketbooks. Obviously, when you have to immediately start canceling sailings, suspending them, offering refunds to people or future cruise credits. It's a frightening situation. I'm actually extraordinarily proud of how my organization has handled it. And we've had a lot of compliments from you, our travel professional partners, as well as customers. I don't know if that's the same for all travel suppliers. So we are particularly grateful to have had the positive response. I mean, obviously, initially we had to, move ahead, do suspensions, even before we were asked to. So we took the high road, knowing that we had to take care of our guests who were at sea right away. So it took an awful lot of operational fortitude, people working day and night trying to get clients home from overseas. Once the dust kind of settled, then we moved into starting to look at what would need to be done moving forward. I mean, we knew very quickly that new behaviors would have to be adopted, new protocols. Fortunately, being a luxury ship, having less guests and more space per guest, a lot of the things that have now been mandated as being, as I said, absolutely critical to returning to sea. We've already been doing a lot of them. So, so for us, it's probably not as big of a change as for perhaps some people, but we have not announced a return to sailing yet. Our mother company has Norwegian Cruise Holdings. They own 3 cruise lines. One is Norwegian. They did recently announce that they would be returning in Europe in July. Oceania, our sister company, I don't believe has announced a return, and we haven't yet, although the roadmap is definitely being worked on, and we do anticipate having announcements soon. Many of the protocols are ready. We're just waiting to go, and knowing that guests will have to be vaccinated in order to come on the ship. So we've made it through this far. We managed to raise enough capital to keep our company going for a long time. So that in itself was a vote of confidence from the financial community. So it's actually been an amazing experience, really. A lot of work, but I think for the people who've worked through it, it's almost been rewarding in many aspects to see how much loyalty we have from our guests, all the people who rebooked rather than get refunds. It's really quite incredible. And next year is looking even stronger than any other pre-COVID.
So just before we get into your presentation, part of my opening, I actually forgot to mention this, but you'll see on the screen a trivia question. And for those who are listening, we're giving away a $25 Boston Pizza gift card for our local restaurant here, and it's just E&B's way of giving back to the community and supporting the restaurants reopening and trying to get their business back in track as well. So, so the trivia question is to fill in the blank there, and if the hint is if you look up at the title of the show, you should be able to answer the question. And just leave your answer in the comment section, and then later on we'll be doing a random draw for that gift card to Boston Pizza.
If I get it right, will you fly me out there to use it?
Oh, they're good for any Boston pizza right across the country. So,
Oh, darn, darn.
but if you get it right when you come here,
Okay, there you
we'll
go.
treat you. There you go. So I know Beverley Regent is all about providing a luxury vacation to our clients, and you know, a lot of times people see luxury with a high cost, and I know Regent has spent a lot of time on how they price their cruises, what's included, and how and that. And I know you have a presentation that will touch on that today, but it really, price is one factor, but everything that you offer is what helps make that luxury. Is that right?
Yeah, I think what happens when you say the word luxury to some people, it gets equated with expensive, and I think what I'd like people to think about is luxury really means that it's higher quality and it's got more to it. So if you have a luxurious experience, you quite often have that additional quality, but you also have, it's got more to offer you. So we like to talk more about the value of Regent as opposed to the price, because at the end of the day, you're paying more, but you're getting a lot more for that money. So it's not that it's more expensive than a comparable type of thing. It's just, it costs you a little more up front, but you know what you're getting, as opposed to being on some cruises where perhaps you're paying a little bit up front and then you've got your hand in your pocket the whole way and you're coming home with a big credit card bill. So yeah, think about luxury as being value packed and of a much higher quality, which at the end of the day, when you're on vacation, don't you really want something that's going to spoil you? Isn't that the whole point of a vacation? You wouldn't want to be going on holiday and being less comfortable than you are at home. So
hey, I agree. I mean, I take my own experience, and after my first cruise, and I won't mention the cruise company, but it cost me more to get off the boat than it did to get on.
well, that's true. And I know we laugh about that. Sometimes it can happen. And I'm
Right.
sure many of your listeners today or viewers will also have had that experience for sure.
Yeah, because you didn't realize, and for first time cruisers and so on, I mean, you don't realize every time that card passes by a scanner,
Uh-huh.
for the most part, it's adding to your bill. So
Yeah.
that's what I like about Regent, and and your product is that you don't have those things to worry about compared to other suppliers.
Well, it relieves the stress. And I think for us, a luxury experience is one that is stress free. And
Yeah,
we like to say we offer an unrivaled experience overall. The value proposition is part of that. But what the value proposition brings is no worries. When everything's taken care of, you don't have to be thinking, gee, what's checking your bill halfway through the cruise, thinking maybe you don't need that second pina colada. I mean, all those kind of worries disappeared. Or even if you meet somebody on the ship or on a short excursion, you decide to have dinner together that night, there's always that worry on other cruises. Who's going to buy wine? Is it going to be good enough? Should we reciprocate the next night? I mean, they're little grievances and things that aggravate you, but all that disappears. So it's actually a great equalizer as well. So I think stress-free nature of luxury is very important to acknowledge as well, for sure.
good. So I'm going to bring up your presentation here now through this wonderful gadget we have here. There you go.
Are we all good?
We're all
Big
good.
technology, and wonderful. Super.
So I'm going to give you the floor, and then if any questions come up through the screen, or if I have a question, I'll just
please feel free to jump in. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, thank you so much for having me. Any opportunity to give people an update. As I said, the elephant in the room is COVID, and we've already chatted about it a little bit. So I think the key takeaway right now is that COVID has not ruined the cruise industry as much as I think the media love to think it would. When you think about it, cruisers in general love cruising way too much to stop. And again, for those of your viewers, listeners who have cruised, I think they know it's quite an addictive vacation concept. So it didn't take very long before people got antsy to book something for the future. And so, as I said, we were fortunate enough that once the books were open for 22-23, people started just shifting their money over rather than even taking refunds in many cases. And when we were offering future cruise credits, more people opted for those than for cash initially. So, and again, throughout this process, I think we're not only going to continue to deliver that unrivaled experience that already had in place a lot of protocols, we're just going to take it to the next level and deliver even more than is required. So things are good. We're in a good position. We're hopeful to be able to return some point in the next months, and hope to have an announcement. I hope in the not too distant future. But definitely vaccinations will be required to board the ship, as they will be also for our crew. So, and I think with that, we'll just kind of move on. If you're interested to learn more about what kind of safety protocols are going to be in place, there is a 77-page document that was full of recommendations that went to the CDC in the US, and that is where the protocols have come from. And so a lot of that information can be seen on our website. So, I mean, our goal today, really, I know, Derek, when we chatted, was to give people a bit of an armchair travel experience, to inspire a little bit, perhaps create some anticipation for returning to travel around the world again, or even in North America, and perhaps introduce Regent as a travel concept that you hadn't considered in the past. Again, that luxury label that we have can often lead people to sort of not look at our brochures, making that association that it's expensive. So please today, if that's one thing you leave this little chat with, it's the understanding that it's not expensive, it's about value and high quality, it really is. So if we can think back to how cruising used to be and how it's become, a lot of folks started cruising back in the 80s. So they saw ships grow in size from 500 guests to 1,200 to 2,200 to 3,600. Now we're at some ships of 5,500, 6,000 people. For those people who are experienced cruisers, they're not necessarily fond of this new concept. Although large ships offer a lot of amenities, lots of different, entertainment opportunities and restaurants, they also bring with them crowds of people. And I think more than ever now, in this post-COVID environment, this is going to be of concern. All along, even pre-COVID, Regent's formula was to take people back to those days when it was about intimacy on the ships. Ships of, a few hundred people instead of a few thousand. And we didn't want people to feel they were being nickeled and dimed. So again, we've sort of been doing that for a long time. So this is not something new in terms of capacities. In fact, I love this picture because although the larger cruise lines would probably say, well, a large ship means more space. In essence, it almost doesn't. When you look at our more intimate ships of 490 to 750 guests, I think it tells a great story that, first of all, getting on, it's very easy to socially distance when you're embarking. It's very easy to control embarkation, disembarkation. It's also very quick. You're not waiting hours to get on and off a ship. And because we allocate more space per guest, people are going to realize that, yes, it's a smaller ship, but there are a relatively small number of people on, considering the space that we have. And so offering that space has always been central to what we've been about. We just haven't necessarily talked about it at the forefront of our sort of discussions about Regent, but I think more than ever, it is important now. And I think this diagram, excuse me, is particularly telling, where we look at one of our newer ships, the Splendor, with 750 guests. If you look at the diagram in the oval, how much space would be allocated to 100 people on that ship versus the smaller amount of space allocated to 100 people on some of the larger cruise lines. We used one of the Celebrity ships in this example. So I think this is a very telling story of, again, how we've always been, and so why Regent perhaps is already poised, ready to move into this next stage of cruising and just focus on things that we need to do. the fact that there is ample deck space. And this, honestly, I mean, yes, this is a couple that were paid to sit there as a model, but I've been on our ships many times, as you have, and wandered around and seen decks empty like this. So this is not an unusual instance. So ample space, spacious accommodations ranging in size. I mean, on some of our ships, you can get over 4,000 square feet for one suite. But then, of course, depending on your style of travel, how much you like to spend. I mean, there's something for everybody. So from that 4,000 square feet down to sort of a couple of thousand to 1,200 to 800, 600. And it really just depends on how you like to travel. As I said, there is something for everybody. But the fact that they are all suites, you know you're going to have the spaciousness that perhaps you may not have had on other cruise ships. This is one of my favorite styles of suite, the superior or concierge on our newer ships. I love this because the bed faces the ocean. So you wake up in the morning, you're looking through your living room, and then out across the balcony. It really is a great way to wake up. And while we're on the subject of space, just tucked behind that headboard is actually a walk-in closet, which is huge. It's like a room. So again, one of the things that you may not have experienced on a ship before. But even looking at our, what we call more of our lead-in suites, which on many of the ships are, you know, give or take around 356 square feet with the balcony, have a huge bathroom, you know, the walk-in closet, vanity table, they're extremely comfortable. And again, as you know, definitely worth the value. We did win the Best Bathroom at Sea award. You'll see why on many of our ships, especially the new ones, double sinks, soaker tubs, as well as walk-in showers. So a bathroom can be a luxurious part of a vacation experience. And we are known to have some of the largest balconies at sea as well. So that's another wonderful part of the experience. And again, if you're looking to distance a little bit, being able to spend more time on your balcony, even order your breakfast, lunch, or dinner there. And when we do serve an evening meal in there, we would obviously, you know, set the table with linens and china. So it becomes a private dining experience, and that is all included. Of course, dining is an important part of a cruise. And so, you know, obviously offering different dining venues, even though our ships are smaller, that's certainly a priority. So depending on which ship you're on, you're going to have anywhere from sort of 3 to 6 different dining venues to enjoy. And starting at the Coffee Connection, which is kind of our version of Starbucks, only on steroids, with all different kinds of coffees, specialty alcohol included ones as well, all included, snacks, you know, pastries throughout the day. It's a wonderful place to start your morning. The beautiful buffet area, which doesn't look like a cafeteria, it looks like a restaurant. The carpet, the linens, the china. Obviously, in our new era of cruising, initially, some of these tables would be removed. People wouldn't be sitting quite so close together. But again, the fact that we have a lot of space to begin with does help. Dining venues outside. In fact, in the evening, the outside veranda buffet turns into an Italian restaurant. So you can actually dine outside with linens and china. Again, if you're looking to be in the outdoors. Main dining room, Compass Rose, open seating, sort of 6:30 to 9:30 in the evening, thereabouts. So you can dine when you wish to, and that's another luxurious feature, taking away that stress. Don't have to make decisions, just show up when you want to. Lots of tables for 2, so you're not going to be forced to join other people. Again, we will limit the capacity initially in these areas, as will be required to, but all existing space is already good. Specialty restaurants on Regent, depending on the ships you're on, you could have up to 3 specialty restaurants, all included, whereas other cruise lines would charge you additional for specialty restaurants. We don't charge for these at all. You're allowed to book 1 before you travel, 1 reservations in each before you travel, and then once on board, if you decide you like 1 or all of them and you want to go again, as long as there's availability, you're more than welcome to. So there could be a Pan-Asian specialty restaurant, a French, and then our iconic restaurant at Prime 7, which is on all vessels, did win the Best Steakhouse at Sea award. And I have to tell you, this is quite a dining experience. Go hungry. And this kind of experience would probably cost you $50 to $80 extra on other cruise lines, but yet it is included on
What kind of capacity is in those restaurants, Beverley?
It does vary according to the ship. And we don't, when we take reservations, we don't take reservations so the entire restaurant is full right at once. We like to keep it flowing, because it's also important to maintain a very high level of service. So it is going to depend. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, there could be 120 seats perhaps in the largest. There could be 60 in another one. So it just kind of depends. And again, they wouldn't be chock-a-block full all at once. It was kind of flow through. But again, in the initial return to sail, we will limit those capacities initially, as we're supposed
And
to.
what time would they open in the evening for people?
Usually 6, depending. Yeah, usually 6:30. Now, the prime time for dining people want is 7:30, and 8. So those time frames tend to go quickly. You can actually reserve your dining. If you take a concierge level suite or higher, you can reserve a little earlier than other people, so it gives you a bit of a perk. But those time frames do go. So once you get on board the ship, if you're not happy with your time, you can always try change it. Or sometimes I find if just walking by in the evening, somebody may have no-showed or canceled. But usually anytime 6 till about 9, they're open. So and if you're in port a little later some days, then that's nice to know you can have a later dinner if you like. So. And then after dinner, even though the ships are smaller, we do have a full range of entertainment. Again, people may assume that smaller ships don't offer this, but that's the beauty of Regent. If you've been used to sailing on, ships with more variety and entertainment, such as Broadway shows, karaoke, casinos, you're going to find that all on Regent. The just show lounge is going to be a little smaller. You may have 300 or 400 people in the show lounge, and instead of having 2,000 on a large ship. So you're going to get all that on Regent. You have the choice. You're not going to sacrifice anything by coming on a smaller ship at all. So it's all there for you if that's what you enjoy, or just enjoy the beautiful public areas that are spacious, the lounges that are spectacular. There are small dance floors in some of the bars, and some of the larger scale areas. There's even a nightclub. There's a casino on all our ships. So have a chance to make a deposit with us if you would like. And I mean, overall, our goal is to give you an unrivaled experience, as I said earlier, on the ship, but also off, because at the end of the day, you're traveling with us to see the world, not just a cruise. Although I think right now people would just get on the ship to get on the ship and not get off. But in a normal circumstance, it's about seeing the world, working on your bucket list. So I mean, we deliver that unrivaled experience with the quality of accommodations, the service, the dining, the entertainment. And then when you're off the ship, we do it through the shore excursions, etc. So to your point earlier, Derek, when you talked about everything, it being a value proposition and the price is higher, it is because we include everything. We start with an airline ticket from Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. Obviously, that doesn't help your clients, particularly Newfoundland, but if you get yourself to Montreal or Toronto, or even one of the major East Coast US gateways, we do include air from there. So you just have to get your connector. If you're traveling
sometimes the connectors are pretty reasonable when they realize, when it comes to, and I found, I found that even when you're dealing with your agents, they're able to help as far as making those connectors as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Or perhaps it's an opportunity if you have friends or family in another place to go and spend a couple of days there before you hop on your flight to, with Regent. That's something that you could do. It is economy air that we include on any North American or domestic itinerary. So that would be Alaska, Mexico, Caribbean, Canada, New England. But if it involves an intercontinental flight, then it's business class that we include. So that's another big difference. And obviously that makes a price difference as well. But the deals we get on business class really make our total package attractive. That being said, if you have points, we can always remove the air completely, and that brings the package price down. That also takes the transfer out as well, but that's something that we can do. If you book a concierge or higher, so that's around category D or E, depending on the ship, we're going to fly you in the night before the cruise starts. And that, again, relates back to the stress-free nature. It's a luxurious experience when you get flown in the night before, you get a beautiful hotel, night's sleep, get over your jet lag or not worry about losing your luggage, etc. Wake up with a nice breakfast, transfer leisurely to the ship. It makes a big difference. The accommodation, I said, was all suites. We talked about that. We include all beverages, alcoholic and non, from smoothies, milkshakes to fine wines and spirits. The wines that are included on a regular basis would probably retail for $60 to $80 a bottle on other cruise lines. So that gives you a good idea of the quality of the wines that we do include. There is a connoisseur list. So if you have clients who are interested to know what's included and what the connoisseur list is, I'm happy to send that over.
I just find that when I did the just knowing that you don't have to your waiter or waitress is coming and all of a sudden you're not having this little piece of paper that you have to put your initials on, and just takes
kind of
away
nice,
from
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and of course, because the gratuities are all included as well, you don't have to worry about that. Whereas on other ships, you would be not only paying for the drinks, they would be adding the gratuities, and it just keeps going on and on. So again, it's a stress reliever. So, and with us, there's no expectation that you should pay more gratuity. I know sometimes that's a feeling people have when other cruise lines might do a special. They might say, book by next Thursday and get your gratuities thrown in. I don't know that message always gets through to the people on the ship. So, there's always that feeling, the envelope appears in your stateroom or, there's a note in the daily program talking about tips. Well, it's not going to happen on Regent because our staff and crew know that this is an inclusive program. It's luxuries. We'd mentioned the dining, no charge for any dining experience, room service or any of it, free Wi-Fi now. And we've recently just added the free valet laundry. And that's something that we were toying with pre-COVID, but I think now it's perhaps even more relevant so that you don't have to go to a laundromat or, you can send things out. It'll be done in a sort of a COVID approved environment. So you're not having to go together with other guests in a laundromat. So, and then
is that an onboard service or?
That's an onboard service. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So that's all categories now. Used to be a perk that only the very top categories were offered, but now all guests have that. And it's unlimited. So you can send every day a little bag of laundry if you'd like to, not dry cleaning, but laundry. So. Okay. And then I think the taxes are included as well. But I think the most important inclusion definitely is the short excursions when we're talking about seeing the world. So, sorry, I'm a bit croaky here today. Excuse me. So the excursions, obviously, when you're traveling to see the world, you want to see as much as you can off the ship. So typically, I know your clients and viewers, listeners have probably been used to getting a nice big fat bill at the end of their cruise on their credit card for their short excursions. I mean, quite often it's several $1,000s. So every single Regent cruise comes with a significant selection of included shore excursions. And basically, you can take as many as you can cram into your cruise. In this case, it's a 10-night med cruise I have on the screen. There's up to 52 free excursions. So with 10 nights, that means you're going to have a choice. You're not going to quite be able to do all of them, but you may be able to do a morning tour and an afternoon, or perhaps, a daytime and an evening one if you're overnight in port. So it's up to you. And these tours that we include would retail for up to around $200 US a person on other cruise lines. So they're very high quality. And you can start booking these now as early as 350 days prior to travel. So that's almost a year before if you book a concierge or higher, and then 300 days prior for a regular deluxe suite. So a lot of people do book early, and so they get access to these things. So it's a tremendous value. And again, relieves the stress of having to scramble once you're on board to book things. When you're on board, you can make changes, but at least the big work's done. And again, they're very high quality. The places we go have certain key elements to them, certain tourist sites that must be visited. So we're going to make sure those are included. And then we add to the selection, enhancing it further in case somebody has been to a certain port before. Perhaps you want to take a different view, a different aspect of a certain port of call, explore cuisine or wine or health, something like that. So we have some additional tours that there is an extra charge for if you'd like to purchase them. They're not mandatory. There's massive free selection, but they're called Regent Choice Excursions. And so these ones usually would be a lot more than $200. So we make those available. We subsidize them, so you'll never pay full price, but they're there as an additional option in case you want to do something a little unique. And believe me, there are a lot of things worth doing. Maybe even if it's just one day during your cruise, you might offer something a little unique. And then recently, well, last year, we were announcing new, very small group and go local tours where you could have a very colloquial experience by, going to the market with a chef and cooking and all kinds of things. So there's lots of different aspects to the excursion program in addition to the complimentary ones that you can opt for. So
I know we talked about it the other day. So for Newfoundlanders, a stop in Istanbul, for instance, I know there's a couple of itineraries there where you have the overnight there. So
the overnight, yes, absolutely.
I think one of them has two nights there. So for Newfoundlanders, there's now just a new trail of the Caribou Monument at the Gallipoli Peninsula. And it's, I'm sure if there's Newfoundlanders on board and they're into Turkey, they're going to want to be able to see if they could get to the Gallipoli Peninsula to see that caribou. So I just put it out there to let people know that that is something that we couldn't, that I can arrange for them.
Well, we have a whole concierge department that will create an excursion for you. I mean, we can help you do that. It may not be complimentary if it's really special, but certainly we can do that. And again, Derek, or of course, if you wanted to do that for your clients, we could certainly assist there for sure. So you're not limited to what we have, although it is pretty vast. But we've had lots of, if you talk to our shore excursion manager or vice president overall, she has some wonderful stories of unique experiences that they've curated for people. They've had a specific interest or need thing they want to do, and they've actually gone and organized it for them. So it's a lot of fun things. So I mean, as far as where we do go pretty much everywhere, except we're not a river cruise company, so we can't do the European rivers. The only one river we can do is the Amazon, but we basically go everywhere that ships can go and more because of our size, because the ships are smaller. We can get into some ocean ports that larger ships perhaps couldn't, or perhaps they might have to tender and we can dock. So there's a lot of choice, and so I'm not going to go into all those destinations today, but rest assured that we probably have something that you would like. And again, just reiterating that on any intercontinental flights, it would be business class that would be included. So that's a lovely way to travel to Europe or Africa, Asia, the South Pacific for sure. Now, we also offer free land programs. So on many of our exotic departures, such as in South Pacific, in South America, etc., in Asia, we offer 3 nights pre or post cruise free of charge. And those pre or post packages would include transportation, accommodation, very high quality, most meals. I say most because a lot of our guests have said they'd like to have a bit of independent opportunity, to explore and have some local food. So that's why we give you the chance to do that in dinners and some lunches. But as I said, transportation, accommodation, a lot of tours included. And so these are worth anywhere up to $2,000 US a person. And so on many of them, you can choose whether you want to do it before or after. And then right now we have an offer where we're giving you both pre and post. So that's a really good deal. But this is part of our core promotion where you can get these free land programs pre and post. So who does tend to sail on Regent? Just to give you, people often ask me, what kind of age group do we attract? I mean, we are definitely a 55 plus crowd. Not to say that we don't have younger people on board, especially if they're wanting a really great gastronomic experience with great wine. You get some people in their 20s, early 30s who are, sort of that minded, very culturally focused. So it's more about a mindset, but definitely in terms of an age group, we are 55 plus. And on the longer cruises, the age will go up. We have a lot of empty nesters. not all our clients are retired, only about 35%. So there's a lot of folks in their 50s, 60s who have still got one foot in their businesses or work. But I think the common denominator with our guests is they have this curiosity about the world and culture. As I said, they really enjoy fine wine and good food and the service, and they want to travel in an environment where they are not a number in a crowd. They like to be an individual. They really appreciate quality. They don't mind paying for it. They feel it's justified, and I think they consider themselves to be less tourists than travelers or immersive explorers. So I think you can start to get an idea of the type of folks that we do attract. Some people sail with us 2 or 3 times a year. Some people sail with us every 2 or 3 years. They would rather save up and travel on Regent, sort of every other year, rather than go on a more mainstream cruise line. So there's a wonderful mix of people. I've met former prima ballerinas. A lady used to dance with Rudolf Nureyev, sitting at the same bar with, a retired principal. So it's really a fascinating mix of folks. So it's not all about the world's elite by any means. It's people who've worked hard, perhaps had interesting lives, and it makes for great conversation. But I think people also like the elegant casual dress code. Luxury does not have to equate with formality. And again, that's sometimes an assumption people make. Although we have some formal nights on the longer cruises, it's not mandatory. The dress code you see this couple wearing here is quite normal for the evening. Long pants for the gentlemen, no sneakers. So no jeans, shorts, or sneakers after 6, basically, unless you're going to dine at the pool grill, then you're allowed. But inside the ship, we ask for longer pants and a collared shirt and shoes. Ladies, a nice skirt, capri pant outfit, dress. I mean, there are some people who love to dress up, especially when they go to the specialty restaurant, perhaps a special occasion, but you will not feel uncomfortable by not taking your finery, whereas some other cruise lines are a little more formal. So there's a lot of special touches people appreciate, and this is the luxury difference. When you have a steward that brings you a cold cloth when you're sitting by the pool, or offers to clean your sunglasses for you when you're reading your book, or the fact that you don't bring towel, you don't pick up a towel. The towel is there for you on this beautiful plush, deep foam chaise. There are little things that I think you definitely appreciate once you start cruising with Regent. And then also the fact that it's a lot of fun. Again, luxury does not have to be stuffy or cliquey. We have a lot of fun on Regent, believe me, and there's a lot of stuff that we do atmosphere-wise and activity-wise to foster that. So all in all, it makes for a wonderful experience. If you're looking to travel in a more intimate style, on a high quality environment, but yet with space, with like-minded people, it's a wonderful way to travel. And for Canada, obviously having a US dollar price cruise line it gives us a heart attack sometimes when we look at exchanges. But fortunately, the company does recognize us here as having concerns. So we're lucky that every 3 months I get a list of Canadian at par sailings. So right now we have 16 voyages that are on Canadian at par, and this list is good through the end of June. And it ranges from Caribbean sailings next winter to South America, even some European cruises in 2022. Right now, you can sail on Regent for as little as $37.99 Canadian. That's completely inclusive of airfare from Toronto or Montreal, where you wouldn't have to put a hand in your pocket. Europe with business class, starting at just under 10,600. Now business class alone probably runs you 35 to 3,800, so that's an incredible value. And next October we've got a very fun cruise. It's called Spotlight on Hollywood. We have some very well-known writers, producers from Hollywood sitcoms, some of the PBS producers going to be on board on October 3rd. It's a West Coast cruise from LA. And it's 12 nights, and it starts at $55.49 Canadian. So that's a pretty amazing deal. So I know, Derek, you have these offers if anybody's curious. And then those double free land programs I mentioned. So if you're looking to travel somewhere exotic in the first part of 2022, specifically to Africa, to Asia, and South America, then right now, instead of having one free land package, you'll get 2. So you'll have it at either end of your program. So that's really amazing savings. So if any of you are starting to think that you'd like to have something to look forward to, as many people are now, being honest with you, we have some sailings that are already sold out for 2022, several actually. there is pent-up demand. We have 2 years of lost travel that our past guests are anxiously trying to catch up on. So I would encourage, if you are thinking about it, to perhaps take a look, consider the value that Regent provides. And Derek, I know you have copies of these charts to share. What we do basically is we'll take a Regent sailing. In this case, it's a 7-night Mediterranean cruise, and we'll compare it to other luxury cruise lines or premium. When I say premium, and that's the third column on the right, those would be companies like Holland America, Princess, Celebrity. And what we do is we look at what we would charge off the bat. So I've been $77.99 US at this point. Sounds nasty compared to $19.79 US with the other guys, but the reality is you're not going to pay $19.79, because from there you have to start adding your airfare, your transfers, your excursions, your Wi-Fi, your drinks, your alternative dining, your taxes. And what happens at the end of the day when you add everything up, the amount that you might pay on a much lesser quality cruise line can end up being very close to what you would pay on Regent. So the idea of this value proposition is to, it's kind of to give you a V8 moment when it's like, I could have had a V8, I could have had a Regent cruise. All along I've been spending almost as much as I would have done, but yet not having the quality and the experience of traveling with a few hundred instead of a few thousand. So as I said, it's all about the value and not the price. So that's really the takeaway, I think, from this. And the other thing, as I said, to the point of scarcity, it is getting real. You can actually make a deposit on a Regent cruise, and you actually are, the only kind of penalty you have is $125 Canadian a person if you cancel. As long as you cancel up to 121 or 151 days before sailing. It depends on the length of your cruise. So that means you could book for 2023 and not have to worry about it until the end of 22. And the most that you're going to be on the hook for is $125 Canadian. And even that can be turned into a future cruise credit. So I think what a lot of people are doing are reserving themselves a chance to travel at this point. So that's kind of, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because that's a concern of people right now, having money tied up and losing it. I do understand that. So
what would be a standard deposit, Beverley?
15% is our standard deposit. Once in a while, we have promotions with a little less. In fact, I'll just put a bug in your ear about something next, starting May 3rd. I'll get shot for telling you, but we are putting some sailings in Europe next year on special, where you can have a reduced deposit with those. So the Canadian at Par deal is the best one, but if the sailing you want isn't on Canadian at Par, then this new promotion coming up, which has upgrade, 2-category upgrade and a reduced deposit down to 50%, the normal, that can be a nice thing to take advantage of. So that's coming May 3rd through the end of June. So something to look forward to. So I always like to end with this quote. I know that you and I've seen this before, but it's still the best one I've heard. Good old Benjamin Franklin. He said, he had quite a few quotes that he left behind his legacy, but this one is so appropriate to our chat today. The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. I don't think there's anything more appropriate to our chat. So a good one to end with, I suppose. So.
Well, I totally agree with you. I mean, when it comes to, getting the value for what we're putting out for and so on, and in this post-pandemic time, there's no doubt about it that people are going to be looking for value for their money, and so. We just need to be able to understand, taking that chart that you showed there just a few minutes ago and doing that comparison. And, sometimes you're sitting on a cruise ship, and as you said, you're all of a sudden you take that card out and you're having to go back to your room and add that to your spreadsheet and say, okay, where am I to in my budget now? And where if you had your previous and everything 99.9%, because there'll always be something come up that you're going to have to pay something for, but it could be just a taxi or whatever type of thing. But for the most part, you know what your vacation has cost you, and you worked out that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I
system.
mean, on board, it's really just if you want to go to the spa, the gift shop, the casino, if you want to upgrade to a higher quality bottle of wine. But to be honest with you, most people are so thrilled with what we include. It's unbelievable. But then, well, as you know, you have shipboard credits on many sailings, been part of Virtuoso and the group. So if you have a shipboard credit, you can use those to pay for the spa and the gift shop. But the only thing you can't use it for is the casino. We can't pay for the gambling, but the other things we can. So, and you can also use a shipboard credit to upgrade some of those excursions too. So in many cases, even if you have a shipboard credit, you still get off the ship without a bill, which is a very strange experience. I know my first Regent cruise, when I joined the company, my husband and I were on a 12-night sailing to the Holy Land, Mediterranean. And having worked on other cruise lines, the last morning came and I had no bill under my door. I was used to, you wait to get off. And so my husband said, what, come on, we got to go. Like, we have to get to the airport. I said, we don't have our bill yet. So I called down to at that time was the purser's office. And they said, no, Ms. Vickers, so there is no invoice. There's no additional charges. And I kind of went, what? I couldn't believe it. Now, my next cruise, we did have a bill. My husband bought a cigar and a Mars bar. I guess he was having a candy fit one night. So I think our bill was about $20 for 2 weeks. So that wasn't bad either. But yeah, it's quite a strange experience. It really is. It's a lovely one, a lovely experience for sure.
As far as you mentioned and showed the size of the different cruise ships and the number of people. So when it comes to checking in on the ship and embarking and disembarking, what can people expect on Regent?
Well, as I said, even pre-COVID, I can't recall ever getting in any long lines embarking on Regent. We typically start embarking around noon for the top categories. So any guests who are arriving early typically get on board. We have kind of that check-in area for what we call the distinctive suite. So the very, very top ones. So rarely, there's never line up there. The other ones, it kind of just flows. Now, in the post-COVID, obviously, I think what's going to happen is we probably will allocate times and say, please don't come to the pier until, whether we do it by deck. I'm not quite sure. They're just working out the logistics. But again, it's a lot easier to manage sort of 350 couples or 700 people arriving to check in between, in a 4-hour time span than it is to manage 6,000. So, granted, the larger ships will have multiple embarkation areas, I'm sure. But as I said, we're not as concerned because we've kind of already been doing it. So we just have to tweak things a little bit. That's all. And the same with disembarkation. What we may do is we may ask people to stay in their suites, and as opposed to usually we'd ask them to come out and go to a lounge. Perhaps that's something that might happen. Maybe they'll stay in their suite till they're called. I'm not sure. Again, we have the experts all working on this right now. But again, dealing with a few hundred people versus a few thousand is much easier and much less stressful. As long as people do as they're asked. That's always the challenge with human beings. We're all guilty of it. We see a crowd, we join it. We see a line, we join it. So I think if people do as they're asked, as suggested, then I don't think it's going to be difficult at all. So.
And you do have porters for baggage and so on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the baggage in a normal environment, goes off the night before. By midnight, you leave it outside your suite 1 a.m. What will happen post-COVID? Again, I'm not entirely sure. But then, typically your baggage is then, retrieved once you get into the disembarkation hall. And if you wish to have a porter, then there are porters available. So that's, it just all depends on what arrangements you have. Some of our guests make arrangements for private cars, in which case the chauffeurs are there. So it just kind of depends. So it works very much like a regular cruise experience. But again, post-COVID, I'm sure there will be tweaks made.
I know we didn't really talk too much with particular itineraries and that, and Regent does do a world. A full world itinerary, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's unfortunately the 2020 World Cruise was aborted. The guests left the first week of January. And of course, the middle of February, early March came and that sort of ended. This year's 2021 had to be canceled. So what's happened is 22 is now sold out and 23 is sold out. People just kind of shifted. And I think also what's happened is that people having lost 2 years of regular vacations, maybe people who were just going to South America or Africa or Asia, they've decided to kind of catch up. And so seeing the value that a world cruise offers, they've said, well, gosh, rather than going for, 40 days this year and next, why not do 100 days, 143 days at once? So I think that's why there's been a tremendous amount of pent-up demand and new interest in longer cruises. So I'm hopeful that we'll have the 2024 World Cruise out, hopefully by the end of July this year, because there are a lot of people waitlisted for 23. And believe it or not, a world cruise, although it sounds, again, expensive, it must be, it's actually the best per diem value that we offer. The longer people stay on the ship, the better the deal per day goes. And of course, not only do folks get all our regular inclusions, but we include some bonus VIP experiences on shore. There's usually a kickoff gala. So for example, if you are leaving from Miami on a world cruise, then we would have a kickoff gala, say at the Biltmore, or perhaps if it was leaving from New York, it would be, somewhere equally fancy. And then during the cruise, there are special events. There's door-to-door luggage service, because obviously if you're traveling for 143 nights, you're going to have more than one suitcase. So a visa package, there's lots of different perks that come along with a world cruise. And it's, and interestingly, for the next world cruise, you could do the entire thing starting at around 85,000 Canadian a person, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider how many vacations you would have to do to cover that much of the world and how many airfares you would have paid, again, it becomes amazing value. So it's something to consider.
Well, thank you very much. I hope people enjoyed it. Had a few people answer the question. So I'll end up giving away a gift card sometime between now and Sunday for Boston Pizza for somebody.
Well, that's great. And I think for the Canadian at par, I didn't go into a lot of details on itineraries. There's so many, but I know, Derek, I did send you that Canadian par list. So if anybody's interested to see where those special offers are, I know Derek would be able to send that to you, because it's certainly where the hot deals are for us right now, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I will have those posted on my webpage and on my EMB Facebook page as well for people to review. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much, Beverley. It was great having you on. It was very informative, and I can't wait to be able to take a Regent cruise at some point in the near future. Hopefully sooner than later, but
I certainly hope so. Certainly hope so.
We see how the world makes out, and hopefully, things will start to improve in central Canada and some other parts of the world, and those borders will open up domestically and internationally, so that we can all enjoy this wonderful world.
Absolutely. Right now we just get your vaccination, because I think you're going to have to need it. You will need it, I'm sure, to get on an airplane or to enjoy a cruise ship experience. So work on that, and then hopefully by early next year you'll be ready to go. So
all right, well, thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. See you in Newfoundland, hopefully this year, perhaps.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of Derek's Travel Chats for today. Some great information, and if anybody still wants to take a stab at the trivia question, please put your comment below in the comment section. Fill in the blank there for me. Next week we'll have another guest on talking about Europe and the many different itineraries the company puts together, and Some have a lot to do with battlefield tours, and she'll even be talking about 2024 Olympics in Paris. So if Olympics is one of your dream vacations, I know I got to do it in 1996 in Atlanta, and it was a fabulous experience. So those kinds of things we'll be talking about next week on Derry's Travel Chats. Thanks very much. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, everybody. And again, as Beverley just said, be sure to get your vaccination when it's available to you. Have a great afternoon, everyone.